August 26, 1936, Aomori Prison, Japan. A guard makes his routine morning check and stumbles across something strange. Something he's never seen before. An empty cell. But this isn't just any cell. It belongs to Yoshie Shiratori. Somehow, he escaped from one of Japan's most secure prisons. The guard immediately rings the alarm. Panic spreads through the prison like wildfire. Officials rush in, inspecting every inch of the cell. But they find nothing. No clues, no footprints, no trace. Escape was supposed to be impossible. What follows is a series of escapes, each more unbelievable than the last, crafted by a man who refused to live behind bars. Yoshie Shiratori was born in 1907 in rural Aomori Prefecture. As the son of farmers, he worked the fields every day, developing the calloused hands and physical endurance that would later help him escape. His early life was unremarkable. He worked various jobs as a fisherman and laborer, married and had children. But in 1936, everything changed when, at a small bar in Aomori City, an argument broke out between Shiratori and a local moneylender. The moneylender was found dead the following morning, and Shiratori was arrested for the murder. Torture was a common interrogation technique in Japan, and Shiratori was beaten until he confessed to the crime. A crime he didn't commit. Yet the courts showed no mercy, sentencing him to Aomori prison. For most, this would be the end of the story. A life behind bars with no hope of freedom. But Shiratori refused to accept this fate. From the moment the cell door slammed shut behind him, he was planning his escape, determined to prove his innocence. Shiratori managed to find a discarded metal wire, possibly from a broken bucket or utensil. He secretly fashioned it into a lockpick and hid it in his cell. He studied the locking mechanism of his cell door, testing the wire during the quietest hours of the night. Shiratori was silently observing everything: patrol schedules, guard rotations, even the sounds of keys and footsteps. He knew exactly when the guards would be least attentive. Then, one night, the moment came. Using the wire, he carefully picked the lock on his cell door. It clicked open. From there, Shiratori moved through corridors until he managed to escape. The authorities launched a massive manhunt, combing the surrounding wilderness with dogs and armed guards. For 3 days, Shiratori evaded capture, surviving on berries and stream water. But on the third day, he was caught while trying to steal medical supplies from a hospital due to him being injured. Within hours, he was back in custody, this time, facing life in prison for his escape. 6 years later, the prison officials transferred him to the much more secure Akita prison, located in the mountainous region of northern Honshu. Akita was notorious for its harsh discipline and inescapable design. The walls were thicker, the guards more numerous, and the surveillance more constant. As punishment for his escape attempt, Shiratori was placed in a solitary confinement cell designed for troublesome inmates and escape artists. They've heard about his escape from Aomori prison. The cell was isolated from the main prison block and only had a single small window set high in the wall. The walls were so smooth that it was impossible to climb them. The guards regularly beat and humiliated Shiratori, except for one prison guard named Masami Kobayashi, who felt pity for him and was concerned about his well-being. It's June 15th, a rainy and stormy night. At around midnight, one of the guards checked on Shiratori and couldn't believe what he saw. He opened the cell doors, and Shiratori was not in the cell. All that was left were his handcuffs. How did he manage to escape this time? Well, he likely found a wire somewhere in the prison to uncuff himself, and then climbed the unclimbable wall to loosen the small window ceiling. He did this over a period of a few months. And on that stormy night, he escaped, so the guards wouldn't hear the footsteps on the roof due to the rain. But what Yoshie Shiratori did next was something he would regret for the rest of his life. 3 months after his escape, he visited Kobayashi, the only prison guard at Akita prison who treated him with respect. Kobayashi took him in and fed him. Shiratori then told him that he only escaped prison twice because of the abuse and torment of the sadistic guards. And because he was the only prison guard who treated him with respect, he told him his secret plan. This involved Shiratori willingly handing himself over to the Justice Department, where he could then make a case about how barbaric and evil the Japanese prison system was. He wanted to gain his freedom through a legal lawsuit while campaigning for change, and needed Kobayashi, a respected prison guard, to vouch for him and help him with his plan. While Shiratori was in the toilet a few minutes later, Kobayashi called the police, and this time, Shiratori was put in Abashiri prison, the coldest and most cruel prison yet. No one had ever escaped from Abashiri. The prison was surrounded by wilderness so inhospitable that even if an inmate somehow managed to escape, survival outside seemed impossible. The prison itself was equally forbidding. The walls were even thicker, the cells smaller, and the guards more brutal than at any facility Shiratori had encountered before. Prisoners were known to lose fingers and toes to frostbite during the winter months, when temperatures could drop to -20 degrees Celsius. Many inmates didn't survive their sentences. For months, Shiratori observed, planned, and prepared. He noticed that the air vent in his cell had a metal grate that was beginning to rust from the condensation that collected on it. Each day he would apply miso soup, the salty soup served to prisoners, to accelerate the rusting process. The miso's salt content accelerated the corrosion of the metal, weakening it day by day. Additionally, Shiratori began a regimen of exercise designed to make his body even more slender. He reduced his food intake and practiced contorting his body into impossible positions. Over time, the metal weakened enough that he could break it, and on August 26, 1944, exactly 8 years after his first escape, Shiratori made his move. In the dead of night, he broke through the rusted grate and squeezed his malnourished body through the air vent. After slipping through the vent, he climbed through a broken window and vanished. When guards discovered him missing the next morning, they couldn't believe it. How could a man fit through a space barely larger than a human head? The Japanese media began calling him the Japanese Houdini, and the public followed his story with fascination. After nearly 2 years on the run, surviving in the wilderness, evading bears and wolves, living off hunted rabbits and raccoons, and enduring relentless hardship, Shiratori ventured south until he reached the outskirts of the city Sapporo. Starving and desperate, he picked a tomato from a nearby field, but was suddenly confronted and attacked by the farmer who mistook him for a wanted local thief. In the struggle that followed, Shiratori fatally stabbed the farmer in what he claimed was self-defense. He was arrested shortly after and recaptured in 1946 and sent to Sapporo Prison, the most technologically advanced facility in Japan at the time. Engineers specially designed a cell just for him with round-the-clock observation. Guards checked on him every 15 minutes, day and night. The walls were reinforced steel and only a small window too narrow for even a child to squeeze through. This cell was inescapable. Until one day, the guards checked his cell and Shiratori was gone. While the walls, the ceiling, and the window were inescapable, the floor wasn't. He managed to remove the bolted floorboards and started digging a tunnel beneath him. He always put the floorboards back in place so the guards wouldn't be suspicious. Whenever the guards weren't looking, Shiratori dug, using a miso soup bowl or random cutlery he managed to obtain. The guards believed they were keeping a close watch on him, even during the night. No one suspected a thing. After his fourth escape, Shiratori was in his 40s, and he knew he couldn't keep doing this for much longer. Then, in 1948, one day, as he rested on a bench, something happened that changed his life. A police officer sat next to him, and the two started to talk. Shiratori tried to remain calm and not give away his identity. Then suddenly, something happened. The police officer didn't know who he was, but he offered him a cigarette. Because cigarettes were very expensive in Japan back in the day, Shiratori was stunned and couldn't believe what was happening. The fact that someone offered something this luxurious to him just out of kindness brought tears to his eyes. After all the mistreatment he endured from prison guards, with even Kobayashi turning his back on him, he hasn't experienced kindness in years. Moved by this unexpected act of kindness, Shiratori confessed his identity as an escaped convict and surrendered peacefully. The court reviewed his case about the murder of the moneylender and murder of the farmer, and found serious flaws in the original investigation. As for the moneylender, witnesses who had testified against him in the original trial now recanted, admitting they had been pressured by police. Evidence that could have exonerated him had been suppressed. And most importantly, another man, now deceased, had confessed to the murder on his deathbed years earlier, information that had never been passed on to Shiratori. And as for the farmer, they acknowledged the fact that he acted in self-defense. While they didn't overturn his conviction entirely due to legal technicalities, they reduced his sentence to 20 years with credit for time served. For the first time, Shiratori felt that someone had actually listened to his side of the story. The warden at his new prison was impressed by Shiratori's intelligence and determination. Unlike previous wardens who had seen him only as a troublemaker, this man saw potential. He advocated for Shiratori's early release, arguing that a man with such extraordinary qualities could contribute positively to society if given the chance. In 1961, after serving just a few more years, Yoshie Shiratori was granted parole. He was 54 years old and had spent nearly half his life behind bars or on the run. But he was finally free, legitimately this time. Walking out of the prison gates for the last time, Shiratori is said to have stood for a long moment, looking at the sky. When a reporter asked what he was thinking, he replied simply, "I was just wondering what it feels like to look at the sky," without counting the bars in front of it.